Hey everyone, Shane here with etrailer.com. Today I have a 2024 F-350 Super Duty. I'm going to walk through how to install Airlift's WirelessONE Compressor System. Considering a compressor system for your airbag suspension system is a great benefit. It's going to allow you to not only monitor your air pressure, but it's going to allow you to adjust your ride height by inflating and deflating your airbags on demand. So no more finding a hose or a gauge. There are going to be two main types of compressor systems. You have analog style, which requires you to mount a gauge inside the vehicle, as well as run airlines and possibly wiring inside the vehicle as well. Let's face it, newer vehicles are not like the older ones, so it's going to be much harder. It's going to make the installation much harder. The second type is going to be wireless. Compressor mounts outside the vehicle. You can monitor, inflate, deflate, monitor your air pressure in your bags via cell phone or wireless controller from the cab of the truck, which means it's going to make the installation much easier because we have nothing we have to run inside the vehicle. The Airlift WirelessONE is going to be a great option with those benefits. It's going to have a max PSI of 100. It's a single path compressor, which means it airs both bags up at the same time and equalizes the air pressure between the two bags. This is going to be great for hauling, for instance, a camper and trailer. It's also going to come with a wireless controller. It can clip right to your visor, so it's ready when you need it. Now with your controller, you're going to have a couple different options. The single dot is going to be a preset number, which is the lowest PSI minimum for the bags. That's going to be 5. So when you go to unload your trailer, you have air pressure in your bags. You're not going to have to use the arrows to lower that pressure down to the minimum. You simply push the single dot, and it will automatically decrease the pressure to that minimum. When you want to add airbags or add pressure to the airbags, say you go to hook up your trailer, you have that preset number that you like towing at, simply push the two dots, and that's going to increase your air pressure to that pressure that you like to use when you're hauling your trailer. A couple other things to consider when choosing an air compressor system, and that's how you use the system. If you haul loads in the back of your truck, or maybe you have your truck has toolboxes on one side, you may want to consider a dual pass system. Having a dual pass system is going to allow you to adjust the air pressure in each bag independently for those off-center loads. Another thing to consider when adding a compressor system to your vehicle, and that is the maintenance and longevity. The Airlift WirelessONE has very minimal maintenance. Checking your airlines for leaks and checking your air filter. Checking those frequently is going to extend the life of that compressor. Another thing to consider, you want to go a step farther than that, and that's adding an air tank. Maybe you want to run some pneumatic air tools. Maybe you want to air up some soccer balls or volleyballs or basketballs. Maybe you want something where you're able to air up your tires on your vehicle if you get a flat. Adding an air tank is going to allow you to do all that. It's also going to extend the life of your compressor even further because the tank stores air in it. So not only is your air compressor not going to run as much because your air tank is storing that air pressure, it's also going to allow you to air up your bags much faster because that air pressure is coming from the tank instead of from the compressor. As far as the installation process, pretty simple, straightforward. It's going to come with everything you need. Biggest thing is going to be mounting your compressor on the side of the frame rail. It's going to come pre-installed on this bracket, so you may have to drill a couple holes to get the bracket mounted to the frame rail. You're going to have a couple wires that you're going to run up to the engine compartment that are going to come with a connector. They're going to connect right here to the side of the compressor. One single air line is going to run to the back of the vehicle and connect between your driver and passenger side airbags. Other than that, the installation is pretty much set up for you. If it's something that you may not have the time or space to do, you can check out our dealer locator. Find someone near you that's able to put it in. If it is something that you want to consider doing, I promise you, you can do it in your garage, you can do it in your driveway with a few simple tools. Follow along with me now, and I'll walk you through how to do it. Start your installation. You need to determine where you're going to mount your compressor. It does come with a large U-bolt to go around the frame rail. However, on the F-350, this frame is too wide, too long, and it won't fit around it. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to drill into the frame to get it mounted. Typically, the best place to mount these is on the passenger side. The frame rail is usually open. Right back here, located kind of under the back door, you're going to have wiring that has some fasteners on it into the frame. Just undo those, push that up, and we need to make sure we're mounting it something in this fashion here. We want to make sure we're not mounting it where it's facing down. This is going to keep it, for the most part, up out of the weather. And the holes we're going to be needing to use is, you have two holes here, we're going to be using the inside ones. So we need to mark those and then drill them out for these self-tapping bolts that come in the kit. Once you get it marked where you're going to put it, we're going to take a small drill bit, we're going to drill a pilot hole first. Once you get your pilot hole drilled, you need to drill these out to a 1/4 inch. You're going to have two self-tappers in your kit. We'll use a 1/2 inch socket. You're probably going to need an extension as well. So I'm going to use my self-tapper and pre-drill. You can get the threads in there. Because of the body of the vehicle, I'm not going to be able to use this to actually get the screws to go in while I'm holding the compressor up. So we'll get them pre-drilled first. What I will say is, when you're pre-drilling with these, make sure you don't overheat the bolt where it breaks off in there. So you can kind of tell how I was feathering it in. Drive it in, slow down, let it go for a second, cool off until you get the hole drilled. Then we can come back with a different tool that we can fit in between here to get our compressor put in place. A little trick I like to use, since my socket is not magnetized. If yours is, great. If not, you can do this. Take a paper towel, stick it over the end of your socket, put your bolt in there, and that'll keep it from falling out. You're going to have a rolled up bundle of wire. It's going to be the only one in your kit that's got a big plug on it. It's going to go right there on the end of your compressor. And we need to make sure, again, the way we have this mounted is typically the way you want to do it. You want to make sure that this is not facing the ground when you mount it. So because our frame rail is so big, this is probably going to be your best bet. There's a little red tab on here. It's a lock. Make sure that's pushed up. We're going to slide it on like that. You're going to reach up and push that red tab down. That's going to lock that on there. The rest of this we're going to leave laying. It's going to end up getting routed up to the engine compartment. So for now, we'll just lay this out and leave it where it is. You're going to have a black wire with a ring terminal. That's going to be a ground. Kit's going to come with a self-tapping screw. Really ground it anywhere. I'm going to try and ground it where it'll keep, a lot of water from getting sprayed on it. It'll help keep it from corroding. I think what I did is I fed it right inside of the frame of this bracket here, over to the front. And right here, you have a cross member through your frame. I'm going to take this, mount that ground right in between, right on the back side of it there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the short wire off the bundle of wire that we plugged in. We're going to strip back the end. We're going to add on the heat shrink butt connector that comes in the kit. You're going to take this red wire that's coming off the compressor. We're going to cut that end off of it and then strip it back. We're going to take this end, put it into the other end of that heat shrink butt connector. Crimp it down, take your heat source and shrink that butt connector up. Now it's up to you. I like to take some electrical tape and wrap it around that butt connector, just to give it a little extra protection. I also like to do it when that butt connector is still hot, because then the glue from the tape actually sticks to it. On the top of this bracket here, there's little holes. It's going to come with these little clips, and that's for your wiring. You can run it over the top. You take these little connectors, run a zip tie through it, and you pop it in place and then zip tie it on top of that frame. Push that little connector in there. I'm going to take not only the wiring from my compressor, but this factory wiring that we unhooked earlier from the side of the frame rail. We're going to go ahead and put that in there as well. That way it stays secured against the frame. I'm going to take the rest of the wiring, and you have factory wiring that runs right along the frame rail up to the front of the vehicle. I'm going to take the rest of it, route it right along that, zip tie it along the way, up to right behind my front wheel, and then we'll run it up to the engine compartment later on. As I mentioned, factory wiring runs along the frame of the vehicle up to the front. I just found the best route that I thought was going to keep my wiring safe. Zip tied it to this factory wiring. Right here around your body mount, there's a bracket that has factory wire running through it with some zip ties. You can actually run that wire right through those factory zip ties that are already on there, and that'll hold it in place around that mount. And then of course, I just came around, zip tied it along the way, came up to the front body mount, went behind it. There's a pocket where you can get the wiring out. There's a little clip right up here at the top. You can take your wiring and pop it inside of that clip, and that'll hold it up there. Next, we need to mount our air filter from our compressor. The hole in the back, it needs to be mounted like this, with this facing down, which is the hose. We also need to put it in the driest location we can. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole right here in this hat channel. I'm going to mount it just like that. It'll keep the most amount of water off of it, keep it as dry as possible. The hole we drilled is a 25/64. You're gonna have it fitting. It's gonna look like this. It's gonna thread right on the back of this filter. Don't over tighten that because this is plastic. Take my airline, push it over the barbed end like that. We're going to take this, stick it in that hole, like that. We're going to route this line over to the front side of our compressor right here. So once we've routed our line the way we want, we'll cut our line down to size. We'll put it right on the end of our compressor right there. Since our hose needs to be facing down so that the water goes down, any moisture in there, and it connects in here, I want to make sure there's not a dip in it because then water sits in it. So what I did is zip tie it to my factory wire in here, loosely, and then right up here, I took 2 zip ties, ran them together, so that I didn't zip tie it so tight that it was higher than where it was coming out of my filter. So what I did is I just did a gradual grade down to my fitting on my compressor there. Next, we need to run our air line and tie it into our 2 bags. I'm going to go ahead and cut the end of this off. I'm going to make sure it's cut flush. There's no burrs on it. It's not pinched or kinked. You're going to take this, there's a fitting right on the bottom of your compressor. I'm going to take that, push it in there. You'll kind of feel it grab, give it a little tug. And then we need to route our line back to our passenger side airbag. We need to run our airline back to our passenger side airbag from our compressor. It really doesn't matter how you do it as long as you stay away from anything hot or moving, and then make sure that wherever your line is touching metal, you put some buffer on there. The way I chose to do it is go in the frame rail right here because it's the least amount of line hanging out. From there, through the frame rail, where your passenger side inside of your tire is, that came out right here. Then went up through the hat channel, then down over the frame where our spare tire goes up. Now I'm going to come back later on. I'm going to put vacuum line on it, which is a rubber line. I'll just slit it and slide over the top and get it so it's a buffer on there. You can do wire loom, whatever you want. Just make sure you protect that so the metal doesn't cut into that line, that air line there. For the one coming out of my frame rail back there, since I don't have the end of the line, you can take the tube, cut it the size that you want, and we're just going to split it. We don't want to cut it completely in half, we just want to open up one side. Something like that. We can take this, slide it over the line and into the hole. You can put a zip tie around it, you can put tape on it, whatever you want to do. With our line from our compressor routed back, our passenger side airline's here. What we're going to do is we're going to basically eliminate the line where it goes back to the valve in the back. So we just have one. What we're going to do, we're going to cut it here. Make sure you let all the air out of your bags if you have any in it. We're going to install a T-fitting. That. We're going to take this line, cut the size, connect it into that end. Driver's side airline. Cut it down. Add the second T-fitting. The line from our passenger side. Put a zip tie right there. It'll hold that line up. And come over to this side and secure this line up. Just to keep my line from bouncing around, I'm gonna zip tie it there above the plate for my spare tire. This one I can zip tie here. So now with our lines connected, we have our single line in case for some reason our compressor happens to not be working at the time. If you're putting the compressor on after you put the bags on, you got the bags on, you've had them on for a little bit, you got your fittings to the back on a bracket, you can leave that one there, or you can remove the bracket and reroute this. What I like to do is actually take that and put it where the in one of the license plate holes. To me, it's a much cleaner look rather than having this bracket here, but that's completely up to you. It's really up to the individual. They don't care about having that bracket hanging there. It's up to them. Once you've got your fitting mounted where you want, whether you left it where you had it to begin with, or you mounted it like I did into one of the license plate holes, now you can move up to the front and start wiring it to the battery. Now we're going to take our red, pink, and black wire from our compressor, route it up into our engine compartment to our battery. Black wire, cut it down to size, put a ring terminal on it. It's going to be connected to the negative side of the battery. Your red wire, cut it down to size, strip it, add on a heat shrink butt connector to one end. Then we're going to take our fuse holder, we're going to cut it in half, strip back both sides, one end's going to go into the butt connector. The other end is going to get one of the ring terminals that comes in the kit. We're going to make sure the fuse is not in there. We'll shrink that up. That's going to get connected to the positive side of the battery. The pink wire, if you want to, connects to an ignition source. And what that does is as soon as you turn the ignition on, if the compressor would kick on and add any pressure in your bags that is needed. Our neighbor chose not to have that, so what they're going to do is when they start their truck, they're just going to use their remote, check their air pressure, and add the air pressure that they need. So we'll end up just taping this. We'll bundle this up, tape it up, and zip tie everything together to this factory wiring here. Once you've got your ground, your positive and your ground connected, we can insert the fuse and we can test it out. Now we'll take our remote, we're going to pull this little paper out, turn it on, it's going to scan. So our minimum is 5. We'll bump this up to 25 or 30. You can hear the compressor kick on. we'll add air to our bags, and then we'll check for any leaks. So anywhere that air line goes into a connection, spray it with soapy water and check to see if there's any little bubbles coming out of it. Once you've tested everything out, you know it's working correctly. You've checked for any leaks. You've determined whether you had them and fixed them or you don't have any. You're ready to go. It's going to do it for a look at installation of the Airlift WirelessONE air compressor on a 2024 Ford F-350 Super Duty.